All right. Well, hello, everyone. I think we are live. Everything's going well. Tell me if looks like the sound is a little too high. Hello? Hello? Let me know if that's too much. The volume's off a little bit. Welcome. This is the Janus Motorcycles Ramblestream, episode 12, on this Monday, the 21st of August, 2000, in the year of our Lord, 2023. Welcome. Good to see we've got some folks already in the chat. A lot of folks whose names I recognize. It's the usual crowd. Good to see you all. If there's anybody lurking, it's fine if you want to keep doing that, but also feel free to let us know you're here. It's always good to see new faces. I know I talked to at least two people over the weekend who said that they watched and hadn't commented. So I think there are more of you out there. Let's see, where do we start? I guess if you haven't noticed, I've changed my office layout a little bit here, and I'm really liking it. I have not had a whole lot of space, and this room has been kind of a disaster area. It's been filled with prototype parts and junk. So got back from vacation and decided that I was going to clean it all out and take a lot of the prototyping stuff down to our fabrication shop and store it there. And I took the opportunity to move in a beautiful old, actually what this computer's on right now, beautiful old wooden drafting desk that I've had for quite some time and haven't had the room to use anywhere. And so I'm excited to have that, and I've been using it. It's great. I love having an angled surface. It's working really well for this. So I've got a lot of new kit here, awesome screen that I can see everything. So I hope that this is going to work really well. We're hardwired into the internet, and I hope we won't lose anything, any connection here. Power doesn't go out like it always seems to do. Anyway, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I've been off for a little bit. I took off with the family, and we went up to Nordhaus Dunes, which is north of Ludington, Michigan, on the lake, the western shore, or the western side of Michigan, eastern shore of Lake Michigan, and it's a beautiful, state park, and they permit primitive camping. So we did a backpacking trip up there, and packed all our stuff in and spent a week on the dunes, or right behind the dunes, camping, cooking food, and just picking wild blueberries and swimming a lot. So it was really, really good. The last day we were going to leave Saturday, but the wind changed and a thunderstorm came through, and all these black flies attacked us. And so we decided, you know what? It's okay if we leave a day early. It wasn't us as much as our poor dogs that really suffered the black flies. So that was fun. We've also had a lot of other things going on here. We've had, I can't even remember all the stuff we've been doing. We had blog posts going out. We've got, and I'll cover some of this stuff. So first, as usual, I forgot my beverage. I may have to go run and grab that. I have just a coffee this evening. But first off, as always, we'll start with a poem. And as usual, it's going to be a Wilbur one. I think I got a really good one picked out for you. So I'll be right back. It's right over here. All right. This is a short one, and it's kind of a pun. It's a play on words, and it's a word play. Mind, M-I-N-D, Mind, by Richard Wilbur. Mind in its purest play is like some bat that beats about in caverns all alone, contriving by a kind of senseless wit not to conclude against a wall of stone. It has no need to falter or explore darkly. It knows what obstacles are there, and so may weave and flitter, dip and soar in perfect courses through the blackest air. And has this simile a like perfection? The mind is like a bat. Precisely. Save that in the very happiest intellection, a graceful error may correct the cave. I love that one. It's a good one for ramblers, definitely. A graceful error. That's what we're good at. Sometimes not so graceful. All right, let's take a minute and look at some comments here and say hello. We got Confed Yank, always good to see you, from North Carolina. Jacob Will, good to see you too. Hello from Kalamazoo. Confed Yank says, did you move spots you're using? Yes. Andy says, sounds great. Sound is good. Okay, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Actually, I can move my chat window up here. I can see it better. Maybe. I don't know. I'm getting used to this new setup here, so bear with me here. I think I like it more right there. This works really well, though. Let me know how you all like the setup from your end. Thomas Crouch, we can hear you good. Hello, Thomas. Welcome. He says right below that, he says, I'm new here. I can tell. I recognize most of these names, so really welcome you here, and hope you keep showing up. I think I have 2 more Ramble streams, and then I will be taking off for Labor Day, and then I have I just bought myself tickets for my birthday, a concert. One of my favorite bands is playing in Fort Wayne. Cake, if any of you all know Cake, you'll know I'm a big fan, and we're going to go. It's a pretty small venue, or not small, but it's kind of pokey, I guess. It'll be fun. Okay, and so that Monday, the 11th, we will not have a Ramble stream. I'll be doing something else, but then we'll be back after that. Gary says, hello from East Lansing. Hey, Gary, hope all is well. It's been good to see number 79, your Halcyon, here in the shop, as always. One of your 2 number 79s, I may add. Eric Fritz, sound is good. NW Metal Bug. Hi, when did you put a digital speedometer on the 250 Halcyon? We're already getting into the good questions. So yeah, I should also just say right away, this is the Ramble stream. This is about rambling. If you're here for a concise, well-executed agenda, you should go somewhere else. We ramble. So yes, to answer your question, NW Metal Bug, which is also a name I don't recognize. Welcome, first of all. And to answer your question, boy, it's been about 3 years, I want to say. I think that was new for 21, maybe. I think. Either 20 or 21. It's been a couple of years now. The digital speedometer is manufactured by MMB. They also make our instruments for the 450 model, which has a tach and a speedo. The 250, of course, has just the speedometer, and they're great. We really like them. I have noticed some folks complaining about water and moisture in them, and so that's not the way they're supposed to be. That doesn't usually happen. Let us know. That's not what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to. I mean, mine. I have ridden through many a rainstorm, and it does really well. Jeep Man Dan, hey, how's it going? Those are one of the Felix brothers. I can never remember which one Jeep Man Dan is. I just was talking to someone who knew you all. I had my wife bought a number of years ago 7 or 8, what are they called? The modernist, hideous chairs. No, I was just talking about it today. They're made up in Kalamazoo. They're in the 70s. Very popular, modernist chairs. I think they're hideous. They're fiberglass buckets with these metal legs. Anyway, we bought them for a very good deal, let's just say. And we sold them for an even better one to a guy from Grand Rapids who's kind of a collector of, why am I blanking on this name? He's a modernist designer. And he knew you all and is really interested in a Janus as well. So it was a great kind of meeting of the minds. Nordhus Dunes area is beautiful. Yes, it's absolutely gorgeous. You have to drive 6 miles down this dirt road to even get to the parking lot where you hike in another couple of miles to the beach. So it's really lovely. Kid Fed Yank says, imagine going primitive camping and having such a relaxing vacation. I'm trying to get my twinsy going with me on such. Yeah, it's really nice, especially if you walk in, because there were a number of other people there camping, but by about Tuesday in the middle of the week, there were very few. And we brought a hammock, and I don't know, it was just really, really relaxing. Honestly, one of the best parts is just cooking. My wife's really good at preparing backpacking food. We dried a lot of stuff. We dried our own food for it. We dried or dehydrated all these meals like chicken and hamburger meat, and it was actually really, really fantastic. There's nothing better than camp food when you're hungry and been playing all day. Confed Yank says Keoko throttle lock. Keoko? I'm not familiar with that brand. I use something called a Go Cruise. Do I actually have one? I think I have one. Here. I think I got one right here. As usual, I can't find it, but it's a very simple design that clamps over your grip, the rubber part of your grip, and then it has a little leg that goes down on your brake lever. So as soon as you pull the brake, it will it kind of disengages as well. It's fairly safe design and has a little thumb thing on it. And I never really use a throttle lock. I found that mechanical throttle locks that are not connected to the speed, they never really. A motorcycle, you go up a hill and it slows down, or you go down a hill and it speeds up, but they're great for kind of giving your right hand a break if you need to kind of rest it, or if you want to, I don't know, sometimes I've done things like the long distance riders, iron butt riders will tell you, they'll be eating food and preparing a meal while they're riding along the road. I have done things like that. Jacob Will, recently I've seen many people talk about the 250 rear brake. How strong is it supposed to be? In my experience, I can stand on it and it won't lock up. That is not how it is supposed to be. All of our brakes, I was just telling somebody this, are designed to, anything above 5 miles an hour, you should be able to push down on it and lock up your rear tire. Not too easily. We've specifically designed them so that they're not crazy strong. For example, when we launched the 450, the first brake caliper we got in as a prototype was too strong. And if any of you all know, Mark Zweig is always posting on the owners group, and he's right, that rear brakes can be quite dangerous on a motorcycle. And they can result in something called a high side if you're not careful, which is basically where the rear of the bike locks up, and then you let go of it thinking that you're gonna, stop, and then it catches traction again, and that's when you go flipping over the handlebars. And it's just, if you want to stop, the front brake is the best one because it grabs and all your weight's transferred to it. All that said, the rear brake is supposed to work, and you should be able to lock that rear wheel up relatively easily with a normal amount of pressure on the back of the bike. So if it is not working, then you need to get a hold of us and we will help you fix it. They can be a little tricky to bleed. That is the problem, is that if they do lose pressure somehow, which brakes do occasionally, it's a pressurized system. If it does, you need to bleed it correctly. And I'm not going to go into the whole process, but sometimes it's easiest to actually remove it from the caliper carrier plate and raise it so that you have all the air going up and it actually bleeds out. It can be done on the bike. It's just you have to kind of work with it, much like on other bikes. So if it's not working properly, let us know. It should, if you're putting all your weight on it and it's not stopping your motorcycle, that is not the way it's supposed to be. We've gone through several redesigns on the 250 brake, and it's if you have an older bike, let us know as well, because we have an update on the really old Halcyons and Phoenixes and Griffins that improves the brake handling. It actually improves the geometry so that it works better. Confed Yank. Oh, I recall this one. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm got to catch up on all the comments here. I'm going too slow. Thomas Croach says, I definitely will. I've been watching videos on your YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram for about 2 weeks now, and I can't wait to get myself a bike. Awesome. Well, I really like to hear that. We do put a lot of work into our YouTube library, and we've got a lot of videos out there on different kinds of things that you can enjoy and experience on the bikes. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Tonight, let's take a little break and talk about what we're going to do tonight, and then we'll get back to the comments. I'll try and wrap that up relatively quickly. We're going to talk real quick about some of the events other than my vacation that we've been up to, and do some little updates on that, and then we're going to pick up where we left off last time, which unfortunately got cut short, if I'm not mistaken. The last Ramblestream technology did get the better of me, and it didn't work. But we're going to pick up where we left off, and that is with we had just finished a slideshow on the development of the Paragon, our 50cc, or actually it was about a 65 or 75cc Grand Prix inspired moped that really started Janus motorcycles. And we're going to pick up with the first Janus, which is the Halcyon 50. And we're going to look at the kind of a slideshow of the history of that, and I'll kind of ramble about it, and you all can ask questions. And then we're going to do, So anyway, let's go. I'll go ahead and do a couple of updates real quick here while we let some more people comment. So let's see if I can make this work correctly. Okay. So to start off with, I'm going to try and be real complicated here. I wanted to show you all some bikes we built. Well, we can show. Okay. So anyway, let's start with our blog. So we've got some new blog posts up, and one of those is, let's see. Well, we built a bike for Milwaukee, and we just posted a video on that, which is available on YouTube. Check it out. Milwaukee Janus Halcyon 450. It's been about a year now or more that we've been working on this project with Milwaukee Tools, and they're fantastic. We've been working with their marketing firm as well, and ended up building a bike for Milwaukee Tool and for Acme Tools, which is a very old tool retailer in the upper Midwest, and we've had a lot of fun. Please watch I'm not going to show the video, but we build it with a lot of Milwaukee tools. I'm already kind of a Milwaukee fan. I have a buddy who's an electrician, so he got me hooked on all the Milwaukee fun. And then we built one for Acme. It's a really fun bike. We put white wall tires on it, and it's up at Milwaukee headquarters right now, and that's been a lot of fun. So also the Acme tool bike was another fun one. Check out the video for the whole how we built it and all that stuff. Tom Neal, one of our super fans out in North Carolina, who we mentioned before, and he's written a number of blog posts for us, has written a really good blog post on buying your first motorcycle. And it's really more than it's just like buying your first motorcycle. It's kind of an introduction to what we talk about with Rambling. It's about small displacement motorcycles and what Janus is trying to do that's different from everybody else. And it was really lovely to see it in the words of someone else, not me, or our marketing or Grant, to have someone else who understands this and who has so much experience with with motorcycles. He's not new to motorcycling or automobiles in general. There he is with his Halcyon, and he's going to have some big news about a really cool second Halcyon 250 he's building, which is in the works right now. But boy, he's got some cool pictures from the 1970s. Look at that. What a dude. And he can also jump a bike. Look at this. Blue smoke trailing. So there you have some blogs to check out. There's a lot more. And then we have, over the weekend, a motorcycle show that that we've been participating in, and really me and my wife have been going down to this motorcycle show as Janus for 9 years now. I was wearing the original T-shirt at this show. It was on Sunday. It's called Rider Rot Vintage Motorcycle Show, and it's in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And the last 2 or 3 years, I've made the trophies for it, and so here they are. I did a couple of this is 80s and 90s, all made out of Janus scrap parts. Actually, except for that spring. The spring there, that's out of my 1987 Kawasaki KLR. That's a shock spring. Lots of good ones. Oh, that was a good one. I like this one. And some cool bikes, too. A Marini. Some wacky ones. Some really cool ones. Anyway, a lot of really neat bikes. And we had a lot of fun down at the Electric Works in Fort Wayne. Let's see, what else was I going to talk about? Pete Marino, one of our good customers from Kentucky, went out rode his 450 out to Sturgis and back, and that man can ride a motorcycle. He's done a couple of saddle sores, I think, already on it, and he's put 15,000 miles on his Halcyon 450 in, I think he said he got it delivered it was 4 months ago. That's impressive. So he's doing a lot of testing for us. So congrats to Pete. All right, let's finish up. Wow, we got a lot of comments. Holy moly! I gotta move here. Let's see. Where did I leave off? Okay. Confetti Yank says, buddy of mine just went on a trip to Michigan. I missed out on hoping to get up there soon before cold sets in. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I've gone on a motorcycle camping trip. I did an off-road trip on the Michigan cross-country cycle trail in November. So you can go up pretty late. You just got to watch the weather. Usually mid-October, though, it starts getting cold. Craig Hamburger. Hey, how's it going, Craig? Hi, everyone. Drinking Angry Orchard today. Great. I forgot to mention, tell us what you're drinking. And I left my coffee in the other room, but I will not bore you all with leaving and to go grab it. But Peter T. Spock says, hi from Bayville, New Jersey. I'm enjoying number 982 Halcyon 250. We have a new owner here. That's a really recent serial number on a Halcyon. Hello, Peter, and welcome to the Ramblestream. And another comment from NW Metalbug. My 2018 number 164 has a digital speedo. So it can't have been 2018. No, we did not have it. So at some point, let me ask you this, NW Metalbug. Did you buy your Halcyon secondhand? If you did, that customer likely upgraded their speedometer. That's my guess. Of course, I could be wrong on this stuff. The last person you want to ask on these things is me, because I usually forget but 2018, that's pretty early. I don't think we had our certification until Herman Miller, Eames Chairs. Thank you. That's what it is. Herman Miller. Correct. Modern hideous chairs. Yeah. I don't know. It's not my taste. Seth Mark, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Confetti Yank says, replace them with real wingback chairs. Yeah, exactly. That's what I have in my house. They're not comfortable either. Nora Enol says, hey all. Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Ramblestream. Michael Trueblood. Hey, Michael. Hello from Pittsburgh, I think that means. I know you're from the lovely state of Pennsylvania. Richard, sometime would you discuss a motorcycle's version of an alternator, please? Yeah, I could. I'm not an expert on the motorcycle electronics. That's where that's my weakest point in motorcycles. But yeah, we could talk about the stator or magneto on a motorcycle. I could even bring in maybe somebody who knows more about it than I do. Confed Yank says, I had a high side, but that was from a bad tire. Oof. High sides are always the worst. Low sides, you just kind of end up sliding. High sides is when you end up flying through the air and landing on the ground, and it's not usually in like motorcycle racing. Those are the ones that are the most painful looking, and I'm sure the most damaging. Confed Yank says, I recall that poem Mind. Nice. Great. Is Acme Tools still around? Yes, it is. They're big retailer of tools. Gary Smith says, both bikes are great looking. Thank you, Gary. They really are. Gary Smith says, saw the shop is now using Milwaukee tools. Yeah, we are. We got a lot of Milwaukee tools now and batteries. We've been kitted out by Milwaukee, and it's a long time relationship. They're not into this to just do a one-time thing. So I think we're looking forward to doing more stuff for them. Actually, right now, we had a whole bunch of old tanks, and they decided to give all their like top salesmen or something a tank with a Halcyon fuel tank with Milwaukee and Acme tools on it. So Kelly's been madly pinstriping fuel tanks. It's a great use for old tanks that we wouldn't otherwise use. Somehow they had a blemish or something like that. Craig says, I've seen the Milwaukee bike, Acme bike, and other bikes in the works, or any of you would like to see. I'm not sure what that means. Stephen Quick, hello from Hurst, Texas, JM988. We got some recent bikes in here. Hello, Stephen, and welcome. Confed Yank says, that sport bike with shark nose fairing is famous in memes, lol. Is it really? I don't know. It was cool, though. Where is it? That thing, I had to take a picture of it. What in the world is going on with that bike? It's wild. There are a lot of really neat, like this. How about this? I'm not a chopper guy. Actually, I could be. This one's pretty cool. I thought that was really neat. Talk about minimalist. That's a neat one. Beautiful Triumph with a big old magneto off the side of it. See that hanging off the side? Or I think that's what that is. It's definitely for the electrical system. And some cool dogs on Urals, of course. It's always cool. And where was there? Oh yeah, Kyle. Here's Kyle. You know Kyle. Kyle's our builder and delivery expert. He won the owner, the guy who organizes it, calls it the Tiddler class. It sounds kind of obscene, but it's for the small bikes. And Kyle bought this bike last week in Montana and won the award. He also has like 20 of these little Hondas, little monkey bikes. Anyway, there we go. Let's get back to the... Thomas says, this will be my first bike, so I'm honestly excited about this. Congratulations. I think you'll really like it. And that's awesome that you picked a Janus for your first bike. Steven says he's drinking root beer. Nice. Thomas says he's drinking cranberry juice. And Gary says the hard stuff, pure water. Although if you're from Lansing, no, that's not the bad stuff. There's good, that's Flint. There's good sides of Michigan and not so good sides. Andy says, leaving the 30th next week for the Lake Huron trip with Jeep Man Dan. Janus owners are welcome to join. Jeep Man Dan and y'all are, sounds like a fun trip. I would love to. NW Metalbug says, yes, he is the second owner. So yeah, I'm pretty sure in your case, your bike, the speedometer was replaced. And the cool thing about the digital is that we can set the odometer to your mileage. So it's likely that the mileage on that speedometer is accurate because it would have been set to match what was on the old speedometer. Can't do that on the old ones. So that's a nice feature. And so for a while we had an issue where it was easy to change that and people were messing up their odometer. So now we have a code, which is really just there to protect you from changing you don't want to change the odometer statement. Andy says, who was that knew Dan and me? Okay, his name is Nate. I don't remember his last name. I could look it up. But Probably shouldn't mention it on YouTube. His name is Nate. He's from Grand Rapids. He used to be from Chicago, and he collects. He looks like he's a vintage dude. He was asking where the antique mall was. So he has a lot of Herman Miller stuff. Confetti Yank says, Kelly does fantastic work. Indeed, she does. We're very proud of her work. Gary says, do I sense a new 450 toolkit filled with Milwaukee Acme tools? That would be cool, actually. Actually, it's a good idea. We're always kind of like trying to figure out, do we go with like really made in America tools? Because a lot of the Milwaukee stuff is not made here in the States. It's good, very high quality tools, but it's not made here in the States. But we could go with Milwaukee tools, and they wouldn't be as expensive as the like Wright tools, which are made in Ohio, and they're very expensive. Of course, they're also very good tools. Confetti Yank says, another motorbike famous in memes I got to see in person was the animal covered in skins and antlers, spotted at Daytona. I think I've seen pictures of that too. Gary says, I showed the dog on the back of the Halcyon 250, and it wasn't a small dog. Wheelie machine for sure. Carlos says, Carlos from San Salvador, El Salvador. Welcome, my friend. Great to have you on. That is very cool. We have an international visitor here. Halcyon 450 plate CM1924 already created and close to being shipped from Miami. Well done. That is very cool news. South America has a long history of motorcycling and motorcycle racing, and a lot of wonderful historic motorcycles were shipped into Argentina, Brazil, and I'm sure many other countries down there. It's a very, very, they love their bikes, and they know their bikes too. Confetti Yank says, more often when going to Michigan, I've been heading west, partly to go through Indiana instead of Ohio. Yeah, who wants to drive through Ohio? If I recall correctly, 164 was sold from a dealer recently. I was saving to buy it. Yeah, they do come up. Okay, looks like I've managed to finally get through these comments, so let's dig in to the Halcyon 50 story. Here we go. So we left off basically right here. This is I'm going to move this screen over a little bit so y'all can see it. How's that? We'll see if it works next slide. So we left off here with the Paragon. If you want to go learn about the Paragon, it's all on the last live stream. You can check it out. That's my favorite shot of it. Great bike. Devin and me, sorry. In the middle of Wealthy Street in Grand Rapids, looking kind of dorky and trying to be cool. And there it is. So, around the time, the Paragon was really this bike we built not as a company. It was something that we just wanted to build for ourselves. However, as I mentioned in that live stream, it was always, the goal was to, even though we never did it, the goal was to build more than one. I think we wanted to build half a dozen of them for friends and acquaintances and ourselves. So it was always, and I always stress this with books, Janus has always, my fascination has always been with production, but with that pairing of art and craftsmanship with production. So I think that I'm trying to kind of get back to like kind of a mass manufactured idea of production that did exist in that I think we've kind of suffered the results of this kind of mass mobilization and production. So that's what we're trying to do, is balance that out. And through building the Paragon, which if ever you all are in town, come on into the shop. It's up on the wall in the showroom. You can see it in person. That through building that, we found our weld shop. We were like, hey, who can make a chassis for a motorcycle? And we found our weld shop through that, and we still use them. They make all the 250 chassis, and they make all the fuel tanks for all of our models, and the air boxes, and a lot of brackets and stuff as well. Of course, we make the chassis for the 450. But it was finding them and many of the other vendors, which we also still use, that kind of inspired us to start Janus Motorcycles, a company, a production motorcycle company. Completely harebrained idea, and we did it with very little money. 3 months after I graduated with a degree in architecture. But it was in no small part due to the willingness of Leroy, who's the owner of the fabrication shop, the Amish fabrication shop that we've worked with for going on 13 years now, being willing to let two young, inexperienced guys basically take over a corner of his shop and try and start a motorcycle company. And that's what you see right here in this picture. This is one of his weld tables with our jig. So the first thing we decided to do, we were able to raise about $25,000 in seed capital that ended up being in the form of a loan, thankfully. And we used that money to source parts and build our tooling. And the first thing we knew we needed to do was build a fixture. And if you've seen recent videos about the 450, it's the same story, except it was just much more rudimentary back when we got started. So here it is. It's a very simple fixture, and guess what? All the frames are still made in this chassis. But our goal, because we were used to small displacement bikes, we were going to build a 50cc bike. That was our first bike. This is the steering head. This is where, and you can see it's tiny. This is like a bicycle style. This is because it's a 50cc, but we still use that same fixture for the 250 line. There we are using string. I told you this is pretty rudimentary. Using string, there's a bunch of mopeds in the background to align everything, and everything was basically done on the shop floor by eye on the 250. I mean, we took a lot of measurements, but it was we didn't use 3D CAD or any of the stuff that we do now on the 450. There you see the first frame. It's like handlebar. It's literally 7/8 inch tube that we used. It's handlebar thickness with the initial mock-up of the Halcyon tank. We really didn't know what we were getting into with that. And like so many things on the early bikes, we mocked it up in cardboard and paper. That's how we designed it. The Halcyon tank is completely a product of being built in raw material. More string lining things up. There are the dropouts on the back. And the dropouts still look kind of similar to that. Pretty similar. And the first Halcyon fuel tank was a steel tank. If you come and visit the shop, it's up on the wall. You can see it. It was very heavy. And when we started welding it, we realized that it was warping horribly. There's just too much heat going into it with the amount of welding we had to do to make it look good. There's the first fender. I don't know if you can tell, but that's actually two fenders we stole off a Benelli, then welded together to form a fender that was long enough. And this very bike that you see here is actually up on the wall in the assembly bay. So we still have this 50. And there it is, starting to come together. We're starting to find a leather maker. Guess what? Same guy who makes all the leather today. He's one of the tooling builder for the weld shop. It was his teacher in 8th grade, which is the highest grade that Amish guys or the Amish attain. They usually start working after 8th grade. You can see the bike is starting to come together. We've got the first prototype set of wheels in and the first prototype engine in. And that's our Derby 50cc 6-speed water-cooled 2-stroke, which was a phenomenal little motor. Still is a phenomenal little motor. And then here we have the beginnings of the Halcyon tank. And some of you may be already have heard the story of how that was developed. I'll try and tell it quickly, but the Halcyon tank was flat on the top, kind of like that steel tank I showed you a minute ago, and it was warping. And even when we went to aluminum, it was still warping. And so Leroy, the owner of the shop, suggested we put this V brake. So you see that I always call it the V brake, but it's this big V here. He suggested we put that V in there to create a rigid tank. It's just like I always talk about air ducts, like HVAC systems usually have one of those cross-patterned brakes in it, and that's there to prevent it from rattling or vibrating or warping. And that's exactly what this does. It also happens to make a really beautiful tank, in my opinion, but it was totally a product of a function that it needed to achieve. And of course, a couple of months, I think, after we had done this, I was walking through the shop and we noticed Leroy also makes brush hogs. And the brush hog had this giant V-brake down the cowling of the machine. And we're like, Leroy, did you get the idea for the fuel tank from this? And he goes, yep, that's where I got it. So the Halcyon has many precedents, many ancestors, one of which is a brush hog. Very Indiana, very Amish. And it just keeps coming together. There's the first oil tank, which all the 50cc oil tanks were round. And the oil tank was where the airbox is now on your 450 or 250. That was an oil tank. And it was a massive oil tank. I mean, it wasn't that big, but that's enough two-stroke oil on a little 50cc to run you like a couple of years. And there it is installed. Really similar to if you have a 250, not much has changed on these bikes. And there we have a rolling chassis. And again, if you look at the way that the back of the bike is put together, very, very similar to the way that we do everything today. One thing you will notice that's a little different is the front forks. We used a telescopic fork from Italy on the earliest 50cc bike, or all the 50cc bikes. And it wasn't until the 250 line that I got to design my own front suspension, which I had been chomping at the bit to be able to do for a while. Take a look real quick here at some comments to make sure I'm staying abreast of that. NW Metalbug has, I'm in Oregon drinking coffee. Yes, Confed Yank Hillsboro Motorsport had it. Huh. And Confed Yank's responding, I thought so, buddy. A buddy of mine sent me a link of their inventory, so I thought it'd be fun. Fly up, catch up with the fam, and ride it back. Nice. So you got it. Very cool. Pretty good deal on that, to be honest. Confetti says, be honest, I was more surprised my buddy got a Royal Enfield 350 over one of those Halcyon 250s. Lots of chit-chat here in the comments. Confetti Yank says, I went up a different way for Virginia and discovered a solid motorbike route, and Halcyon 250 can keep up with traffic. I'm from Virginia, so I'm curious where that route is. That would be very good to know. Is that Southwest Virginia or out more in the western area? Oh no, you keep chit-chatting. That's great. I love it. That's fine. This is called banter. Although I'm not really being too I'm not really bantering with y'all. All right, let's keep going. Oh, there we are. There's me. Showing how big, either how big I am or how small the 50 is. Flat tires and all. We had just mounted them and no handlebars, just trying to figure out what it would look like and what it would feel like. And there we have the first exhaust system going on the bike, the radiator on the front, and really starting to see the bike come together. I remember this day and thinking, all right, this is pretty neat. This is going to be a neat looking bike. It's hard to visualize without the headlight. All right, we got our saddlebags in, and now we are working on handlebars, which the handlebars are also, there's a slight difference in the 50 to the 250 handlebars. They didn't come back quite as far. And honestly, I'm thinking maybe with the 450 we need to come back a little further, or we could offer a second set of bars. I've wanted to do this for a while, that pull back a little bit more for a 50 or a 250. I'd like it to be something that works with all of our existing brake lines and electrical wiring, so it couldn't come back too far, but it might be nice. Fuel tank, this is all the machine components for the fuel tank. At this time, this is the one on the far left would be for the oil reservoir, the fuel cap, the vent tube, and the petcock. All machined by another Amish shop. They're the handlebars. And this was a fixture we made to try and prevent the tank from warping. We don't do that anymore. Oh yes, and this was a shop I bought a lot of the parts for. This is where I got the fenders. Out in Hobart? No, was it Hammond or Hobart, Indiana? Anyway, out toward Chicago. And this guy had a bunch of Quonset huts, and they were all full of vintage motorcycle parts. I should probably go out and see about that, because they were pretty cheap too. Look at those tanks. And just like a whole field full of, look at that. I mean, it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of cool. Like, you can just take parts off these things. A lot of really amazing motorcycles back there. Anyway, I got a lot of parts off those I bought from him, and we created the fenders and some of the parts for the 50 out of that. And then it was totally a mishmash because we didn't have a source for fenders at this point. We were looking at an Italian supplier. Fenders have always been a problem for us until we decided to make them ourselves. And there I am with the 50cc chassis. About 3 years ago, when we first did the 450, I recreated this picture because I found my old hoodie and I was wearing it because it's perfect for working in the shop. This same hoodie 10 years later. A little older looking. And there we have it sandblasted and ready for powder. And there we are. So this is Janus Motorcycles, folks. It was one bay, and this is where the assembly happens now. We had that plastic up there you see. It was up in the loft, and that was my little office where I could do design and stay warm. And then we would build motorcycles down on the lower floor. And that was basically it. There was an old garage door. The same garage door we do the milk run at now, that was the front door. And so people had to kind of walk around and find us. And the building wasn't painted, and it was pretty grungy. Powder-coated parts. We decided to do the first Halcyon 50 in black, and then we started assembling it. And it was just really inspiring to go through that process and see the bike come together. Here we are, putting the parts on. Devin installing controls. Different taillight. I think that was from, what was that? Like a Zundap? It was some kind of German vintage taillight. It looked really good. A little too small. It was not DOT. And then we got some pictures of it. So that's really the bike. That came together. We decided to polish the tank. I was really looking at, as you can probably tell, looking at rough superiors with the fuel tank, and we polished it, and then we realized as soon as we started riding it that it was too bright and it would blind you when you were riding it. One of our old moped buddies, Scott, Eric. It's been a long time. Eric Beyer, putting together the wiring harness for the first one with us. And then we found this guy who's a pinstriper who pinstriped the first bike by hand, like old-fashioned style. He'd gotten a little older, and I had to say he had a mild case of palsy, and so not the best thing to have if you're a pinstriper. I think he had an amazing career as a pinstriper, and it was a little shaky. They did a great job, and this is where it all started. Still, it looks similar to this on the new bikes. Doing all the number plate on the first one, and there it is. All the pinstripes starting to come together. And there's that little 50cc engine. That's actually a prototype airbox. We did not end up going with that, and we did not end up going with that exact carburetor either. There it is with my Italian helmet. And there we're back up at the same place we photographed the Paragon, getting a photo shoot with the bike. And there it is. And we sold a lot of 50cc Halcyons on this photograph right here. And like we did with the 250, I mean, a lot of you all, our loyal customers, decided to take a gamble on a company, especially back in the 50cc days. We had no track record. People, I don't know how they had the confidence in us to buy these things. I think they were so funky. They're just like, all right, I need this. We sold 43 Halcyon 50s, and they're still awesome bikes. I love when we get one in. I love riding it. Jay, who's runs the TT, the fabrication shop, has a 50cc bike, and it's so much fun to see that thing rip around in a cloud of blue smoke. They're quite peppy. They'll do, I mean, it's about 10 horsepower stock, which on a bike I think these were like 175 pounds. We've basically gone up 100 pounds there on every single model. It was really a lot, and there's so much you can do. You could put a 90cc kit on these. We built You can put an expansion chamber, a bigger expansion chamber exhaust. We had this bike, at one point we had it kitted out doing 75 miles an hour. So like faster than a 250 stock. Kind of terrifying, but really fun. And some lovely glamour shots of the 50cc. And again, we sold a lot of bikes off of these photographs. You can see the pinstripe in that picture. It's a little, very, very done by hand. This was that one right there. That was me taking off. That was the first long ride. I rode it back from the the first Gilmore show. I think it was the first one they did. Maybe I'm misspeaking there, but it was a Gilmore car show, and we went up and I rode it home. And that was the first long ride we did on it. And there's my youngest on the bike. She's now 13? Yeah, 12 years old. 12 years old. And there it is next to the Paragon. Same old, the back door of the shop right there. And there is the tank buck. That's what we hand formed the tanks over. Some tanks in production, frame rails. I mean, you've seen this stuff before. Welding this stuff together. And there's a shot of the two of them. We went around to a lot of shows with the two bikes. And, laying out the first deluxe tank. Picking up our first batch of fenders from Elkhart at the roll former, delivering them. And there we go. There are some early fenders going together. I mean, there's the foot brake pedal. We still use that design on the 450. I mean, it's a little different, but it's the same design. Yep. There you have it. First bikes. And we were making these in very, 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 very small batches. So anyway, I won't bore y'all with too many more of those pictures. There's the first production unit. And that bike went to someone who has that under glass in Elkhart. They bought it just to keep it. It was actually our powder coater. It was a powder coater we used for a little while. That was a beautiful bike. Anyway, there you have it. Next week, I plan to talk about the development of the 250 and do a little slideshow on that too. So this is kind of fun. So yeah, walk through the old history of Janus motorcycles, and maybe since it goes up on YouTube, it'll be preserved for a while. Okay, let's look at some comments here. If anybody's still even paying attention. Confetti says, I lived in Danville for a while. That's where I learned how to drive. I thought only towards west, but some back roads in North Carolina to 58 out to HR area. Cool. Seth says, I used to TIG up a box for Philip Morris that had to be perfect. No oil canning. It would warp so bad I wound up submerging the box in a tub of water to keep it cool while welding. Yeah, we actually tried that, Seth. We did weld the tank. We tried it at least in water. I was always like, are we going to get like electrocuted here? But we did try to cool it that way. And it was just too much of a process. And the aluminum dissipates heat so much faster that it was just a no-brainer. It worked a lot better. And by putting those brakes in it, you have the sides are round. So that curve holds it doesn't warp very badly. And it was just the flat portions that would warp. And by putting that brake in it, it really fixed that problem for us. And the earliest 50s, they're a little wavy. And by the time we got to the 250, we really had that process dialed in. And we've been updating the 250 fuel tank I've done updates on parts of it as recently as like 4 years ago, just to make it fit better. And we wanted to have all the gaps exactly right, because we realized early on that if you needed a gap so that the weld could fill in there, because as soon as you sanded it, you could get leaks. It would develop cracks or leaks. So it's been a long process. Confetti Yank says, I bought a Mini. That motor looks like a Screamer. Yeah, it is a Screamer. It's a sweet little motor. Fantastic engine. So much you can do with it. There's a lot of aftermarket parts available too. Shouldn't bike be bigger than the rider? Yeah, you're probably right. Richard, can I buy an owner's manual? Says NW Metal Bike. Yes, you can. Get a hold of us and call us up on our main line during the workday, and we'll create a ticket and I'll do all that stuff. If you ask me, I will forget, and I don't even know how to do it. So call us or email us at our service number, and we will get you a handbook for your bike. Seth says submerging didn't work for me either. Yeah, it didn't work. Although I've heard that you can do that. We also, what was the other process we looked at? There was something else where we were like back purging it with some kind of different material, gas that was colder. I can't remember. I feel you'll enjoy reading Kino's Journey. Kino's Journey. Did we talk about this already? I don't know. Craig says, any update on number 204 production? I don't know, but we can check in on that. 204. It's really in the works right now, or it's probably being built right now or soon will be. Let's see. We've had some part shortages, so we've had a little bit of a delay. Kino's Journey. Tell me about that. Remind me if I should know that. Gary says, I still like the original thread design gas cap, or I still have the thread design gas cap on my Halcyon 250. So that means you're like, unscrewing your gas cap for like 30 seconds. Yeah, I have an old metal one same one on my 68. It doesn't seem to bother me that bad. It works. Andy says, would you ever get back into making smaller bikes? It's so hard to overcome the kind of stigma of small displacement and value. Because for us to build a motorcycle, it's not cheap. As you all know, our motorcycles, we do not compete on price point, but we also we don't have a huge profit margin on them either. I'll say it's a handcrafted process, so it's just more expensive, and we try and create these motorcycles that capture something different. We do what other manufacturers can't do, which is trying to maintain this kind of a personal connection with you, our owners, and also building bikes that you can customize your motorcycle to your specs. And so those are things that other people can't do. We're really working right now is trying to be able to come up with upgrades faster. That's our number one priority, is having upgrades and options, more of them, especially for the 450, but even for the 250. I want to come up with a whole bunch of new stuff for the 250. And I want it to be all retrofittable for existing customers, because I think you all would love it, and it'd be a great way to continue the excitement. But as far as getting a smaller bike, I mean, I don't think we could sell a 50 for what we used to. We weren't making much money on the 50s. I think we started off selling them for $5,300, and one bike basically just paid for the parts for the next one. We didn't pay ourselves anything, and it wasn't until the 250 and probably the first round of price increases on the 250 that we started to be able to be profitable. And it's been a long journey toward profitability as a company, but that's really that's a big part of what we've been focusing on, especially for the last 2 years. And the part of the story is the 450. So I don't know. I'd love to. Maybe we would do a smaller electric, because that's a different beast. It doesn't require EPA. Check this space for more updates. I don't know. We'll see. Gary says, oil it twice a year and have no problem with it. Yeah, I just was on the phone with somebody who has an aluminum cap, and he didn't want to replace it with a Delrin. So I said, put some oil on there, or put some grease on there, something that's not going to get in your gas. Or if it does, it doesn't matter, and it should be fine. Just don't get it stuck, because good luck. Keep the threads clean. Really important. Seth says, I wound up torching and spot cooling. Oh, so you kind of like controlled where the heat was. Wow, that's a custom piece of work right there. Confetti says, I have mentioned Kino's journey before. Yeah, I think I'm remembering that now. Story about a traveler on a bruff. Yeah. I do remember that now. Yes, I do. I need to get that. I would love to read that. Rev. Hey, Rev. I don't recognize your name. Welcome. Rev says, how about a 450 Phoenix and or Griffin? Huh. Well, I'd love to. And I will say that the EPA we have a certified Halcyon Griffin and Phoenix 450 with the EPA and California ARB. So if we ever get around to it, we will do that. I think they would make great bikes. I think that the Griffin would be a cool adventure bike in a 450 configuration. And boy, wouldn't it be fun to have a Phoenix that could break 100 miles an hour? And with a fairing and drop bars, I'd make it real sporty. So don't expect a comfortable Phoenix 450, but it'd be kind of fun. You could do the ton on it if we ever get around to it. The Phoenix didn't sell well. It wasn't a top seller with us like the Halcyon was. So it's a real gamble for us to put all the investment into a new model, because it's a lot of work. And then when we're doing that, we can't focus on upgrades and options and all the other things that we like to do. So we'll see. Jim Winters says, I would like to see a 450 Phoenix. Me too. Andy says, any updates on the 450 passenger seat pack yet? Yes, I do. We have heard we are getting one very soon from Sargent. There have been some delays along the way, but it is absolutely in the works, and I've gotten good news in the last couple of days about it. Let's see. Peter says, can I add a book rack to my 250? Yes, you can. There's a book rack for the 250 available, as well as a sprung pillion seat upgrade for the 250. The more versatile solution is the book rack, because you can attach a block pillion seat to it. And the way I describe it is, if you don't plan on carrying a passenger a whole lot, just briefly, every once in a while, the block pillion bolts on and off with one bolt. It's great. It's a very versatile solution, and you can use it to carry other things, gear, beer, pizza, whatever you want. So I think it's a great solution. And I think it looks really good on the Halcyon. I think the Halcyon is not complete without the book rack or something on the back. The 250, that is. And Confetti Yank says, I feel a 450 Phoenix will do well. I don't know for Griffin. Yeah, it's like some days I wake up and I'm like, man, a 450 Griffin with really adventure bike, some kind of fairing, I don't know, would do really well, kind of compete with the Royal Enfield Himalayan, although not on price probably. Well, definitely. It would be up there with the 450, I think. But it would be a cool bike. But then other days I'm like, oh man, I want a fairing. I was actually looking at some of those bikes down at Rider Rot, and a big old fairing that you could crunch down behind with a bubble windscreen, 1960 style, would be really cool. I think it would do well. We'll see. Jim says, not that I don't love my 78 Phoenix already. Good on you. Number 78 is the next to last Phoenix ever built. The owner of the last one is Gary, who's commenting right above you there, Jim. So you all have sequential Phoenixes. Rev says, I have the 137. You're talking about a Griffin. Yeah, you have Griffin number 137. So a pretty recent Griffin. You can tell right there we don't sell a whole lot of them. A Griffin 450 would be really cool. Confetti Yank says, just to say, I know some buddies who will be 1,000% down for a Phoenix 450. All right, well, that's what I want to hear. Pre-orders. Confetti Yank, although I shouldn't trigger Yami Noob again. Oh, please, trigger him all you want. That was a great video. I would love to have him make fun of us some more. That would be great, because he's got a lot of followers. And the people that like what we're doing can see it when they watch that video, and the people who don't like what we're doing don't want a Janus anyway. NW Metal Bug, I really like the Phoenix. The Phoenix was the first bike we ever thought we were going to build. Remember that Paragon, going all the way back to those Paragon. If we can find that picture all the way back, it referenced those GP bikes of the 1960s, and we thought that's what the first bike we were going to build. The Phoenix was that, and that 2011, 2012, or 2010, we were having that rough idea. That was the height of the cafe racer craze, and so it wasn't until I got sidetracked with the work of Ian Barry, and we talked about him a little bit. Or let's just look up Falcon motorcycles. These motorcycles here that I got really sidetracked and started thinking about. It was not that bike right there, the Bullet, which may not look like a whole lot today as a custom build. There are a lot of people doing really neat stuff today like this, but there was not much there. There were choppers. Bike XC was really not what it is today, and it really blew me away. I was very taken by it, and that was one of the big inspirations for the Halcyon. And we got sidetracked on it, and thankfully we did. And lo and behold, people really liked the Halcyon concept. Rev says, number 137 from New Mexico. Welcome. Craig, any updates on the 450 muffler bracket? I was afraid somebody was going to ask that question. So we've been having more issues with the 450 bracket. Actually, right up on the whiteboard over my desk, I have two plans. We have two. One's called the rigid approach, and the other one is called the isolated approach. And the initial approach that we decided to go with was the the rigid, which is with the stabilizer bracket that I designed with you all, or part of which I designed with you all, which makes everything a rigid connection. And we've had some of the test bikes it's failed, and we aren't sure why. And so we were actually running another one with more miles on it to see how it does. And we're trying to control, making sure that it's all new parts and that everything's installed correctly, and we're going to see how it does. If that doesn't work, then the next approach is the isolated one, where we try and isolate it with some kind of damping to allow it to move around a little bit. But there's definitely something going on there, and this is our 100% our top priority to get this resolved, because we don't want to have to, first of all, very selfishly, we do not want to have to replace 200 plus exhaust systems. And of course, as a manufacturer that tries to maintain really deep connection with all of our owners, we want to make sure that y'all have a solution that's easy to install and doesn't involve replacing your exhaust or breaking down. That's the last thing we want to have happen. But there's definitely a vibration in those exhausts, and we are almost 100% at this point sure that it's this way, that they're not shaking up and down. So we are on it. Charlie, our engineer, that's what he's doing, spending the 100% of his time on right now. So very interested in resolving that ASAP. Thank you for asking, Craig. That is good. If when a Griffin 450 emerges, you can take my money on day one. All right, sounds good. To be honest, I'll want 6th gear in the Phoenix 450. Yeah, you could. Although you can wound that thing out pretty good. That 450 likes to be wound out, and that would be a fun bike, especially if you could duck down on it. We had somebody, I heard through the grapevine, broke 100 miles an hour on their Halcyon 450. A customer, not me. Somebody broke 100. Maybe they had a tailwind. Maybe they were going down a hill. I don't know. But the Halcyon, you're sitting up like this. You're just like a sail. So I think with a full fairing and drop bars, maybe clip-ons on it, rear sets, the thing can go really fast. It's really just wind resistance at that speed, when you get up above that speed. Jeepman Dan says, does there exist a rear wheel rim out there that is a direct swap it for the 450 rear wheel? I know what you're going to ask. With a cush drive on it by chance. I'm working on it right now. I'm trying to figure out, because I don't think it's responsible for everything. I mean, I hear you. The pulses coming through there of the chain into the wheel could cause vibration. But I think it would be an improvement on the 450 to have a cush drive. So we're looking for right now is a wheel with the same outside to outside dimensions, so that we can run the same brake system, everything, but would have a cush drive for the sprocket. If any of you do not know what a cush drive is actually, you know what had a cush drive? I'll show you. The 50 actually had a cush drive. I'm going to zip past it here. Where is it? I know I'm really rambling now, but there's a picture here. There it is. So these are 50cc wheels, and oddly enough, the 50 was the only bike, even though it had drum brakes, it had a cush drive. And this is a different system of cush drive than I would go with on the 450. The 450, I would go with a standard big rubber biscuit cush drive, but these are little bushings. And basically what the idea is that it isolates, like I'm talking about with the exhaust, it isolates the rear sprocket from the hub, so that when the pulses that are going from that big single cylinder, or in this case little single cylinder, it smooths those pulses that are being transferred through the drive chain to the wheel, and results in a smoother ride and potentially less vibrations. So great suggestion. I've heard you say that before, Jeep Man. So absolutely. Let's see. Russell Peters. Hey, Russell. Good to see you. Glad you can make it. Still working on Cary, North Carolina. G-Man Dan might provide the damping you're after. I think it's a great solution. It's going to be if we do get those in, I would like to get enough in that we could offer those as an upgrade for customers. Probably can't offer them for free, but a swap for you. And we have full capability to rebuild wheels, so that would be something that I would hope, I'm not trying to speak out of turn here, but I would hope we would be able to offer a service where we would lace in a cush drive wheel to your 450. It is not necessary on a 250. Confed Yank says, howdy Russell, I'm local to you. I'll want it for going on track, and yes, I will track such a bike. Yes, that would be so cool to see a 450 on the track. You're welcome, Jeep Man Dan. Eric Fritz, thanks for the hard work to everyone over there on that 450 muffler bracket. Well, thank you for your patience and understanding. We're working really hard on it. Rev says, that was me, number 137, 450 at 100. No problem. That was you? Confirmed. Tell us more. Tell us some more. 100 miles an hour. Were you going downhill? Tell us more. Unless you're joking. Number 137. No problem. Eric Fritz, I'd be in line 2 on a 450 Griffin. All right. Well, I hear y'all. Andy says, been looking at windscreens with the canvas headlight skirt. Can't seem to find the perfect one. Any recommendations? Well, the crew's going to be mad at me for showing this too soon, but let's switch screens here. We're trying some out. And this is one that we got from Japan. It's in 2 pieces right now, but it's canvas and I don't know what this is, plexiglass. It's in Japanese. This is a model. It's made by Asahi. I don't really like it, to be fair. I mean, I think it's a great design, and it's very similar to what I would go with. But I don't think the proportions are right for the 450. I think it's too fat and wide. And my goal has always been to make our own. That's me. But I want it to be more of a tombstone vertical, really traditional one. And I want a leather windscreen, or the skirt to be leather and made by Mark. It may take us a while to get there. But I do have, like I've said, our main focus right now is bringing these upgrades out faster. So we will be working on this stuff, and I hope you all will be surprised and pleased with how quickly we're able to bring these things out. Okay. That's the windscreen we're trying out. Charlie is going to be making another trip out west, and he's going to be trying out a lot of new prototype parts on the 450. Russell says, Old Benelli has a great cush on the older 500 and 750. Good to know. Yeah, you do start seeing it above 500cc. You start seeing a cush drive. NW Metalbug says the YZ80 had a cush drive. That's actually, the YZ80 is what the wheels on the 250 are. They are a YZ80. If you're ever looking for parts, sprockets. Andy says, I noticed the exhaust brackets knock on the swing arm, so that cush drive might help. The exhaust brackets should not be knocking on the arm. If they are, they're not wide enough. Good. So I hope you're coming down to the rally. Well, I'd like to take a look at your bike. Jim says, my early 60s Ducati Scramblers have cush drives. Okay, fine, folks. I hear you. Richard casually flexes parts. I'm going to get in trouble for showing you all this. Possible idea, optional leather upgrade. Yeah, that would be great. Maybe canvas would be... Honestly, our wax canvas is more expensive than leather. I'm not even joking. It's more per yard than the leather. Okay, it is now... Holy cow, we are running behind. It's almost 8:20. It has been, as always, a real pleasure to talk with y'all. I look forward to next week, next Monday, 7 o'clock. We'll have another live stream. Tell your friends. I hope you can join us. Thank you for being on so far. I will, let's see. Did I cover everything? Right or right? Oh, let's just a little promo for the rally. I mentioned it briefly, but next month on the weekend of the 15th is the annual one of the. How many have we had? It is the Janus Motorcycles Owners Rally. We have a lot of owners planning on showing up who've already registered. It's a weekend of a lot of fun. Not the least of which is just being with so many other Janus owners. They say you meet the weirdest people, or they say you meet the nicest people in a Honda, you meet the weirdest people on a Janus. And I mean that in the best of all possible ways. Last thing I'll say is, you can sign up on the website. Last thing I'll say is, I have mentioned before, but I am working on a little book, a treatise is what we're calling it. It's called The Rambler's Companion. And I am holding the next to last edit of the it's about 100 little very small pages. These are two-sided. It has some illustrations that I've done that I'm really excited about. I think I showed some of you all those in some previous Ramble streams. We're very close to getting ready to publish that. I just sent off the last edit to a dear friend of mine, Jack from Four Stroke Singles National Owners Club, Fesnock, who has graciously offered to write the foreword, and I'm really, really excited to bring that out. And I don't think it's going to be ready for the rally, but it will be available soon wherever we decide to sell it. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you all very much for joining me, and I will see you all next week on the Ramblestream. Adieu.